Assalamualaikum and good morning, Doctor. Before I start, I want to introduce my teammate, which is Muhammad Firdaus bin Muhammad YUSOF with the number MATRIC 300130, Muhammad ZHARFAN bin AMRUL SANI with the number MATRIC 297334, Muhammad AMMAR bin Muhammad TARMIZI with the number MATRIC 299886, and AHMAD IQBAL HAKIMI bin JAAFAR with the number MATRIC 299698. My group was choose title Inflation in Malaysia.
Today, my group will do presentation about inflation in Malaysia. Firstly, what is inflation? Inflation is the rate at which the general level of price for goods and services is increased, and subsequently, purchasing power is falling. Central bank attempt to limit inflation and avoid deflation in order to keep economy running smoothly. It is often measured by the Consumer Price Index CPI or the Producer Price Index PPI. How price in Malaysia increase? In Malaysia, the general increase in price or inflation is influenced by several factors. Demand pull factors such as economic growth and increased consumer spending lead to higher demand for goods and services, driving price up when demand exceeds supply. Cost push factor also contribute, with rising production costs including raw material, labor and transportation, as well as fluctuation in the Malaysian ringgit, which affect import costs. Supply chain disruption, whether due to natural disaster, political instability, or pandemic like COVID-19, reduce the availability of goods, further pushing price higher. Additionally, global commodity price impact domestic costs. Government policies including adjustment to subsidies and tax like PST or SS play a significant role in influencing price level. Structural factors such as inefficiencies in infrastructure and logistics and limited competition in certain sectors can also lead to higher price.
Assalamualaikum and hi, and now I will continue about the historical context about the inflation in Malaysia. In Malaysia economic history, inflation has fluctuated significantly due to the range of factors. Initially, after gaining independence in 1957, Malaysia focused on industrializations and also agriculture, maintaining stable inflation until the late of 1960s. However, global oil prices increased and domestic economic policies lead to the rising of inflation towards the end of that decade. Next, the 1970s oil crisis had a profound impact as Malaysia, heavily reliant on oil exports, experienced soaring inflation rates. Inflation peaked at 70.29% in 1974, triggering economic challenge including a sharp decline in GDP growth to 0.8% in 1975. Furthermore, in the early 1980s, another surge in global oil prices contributed to inflation rates rising from 3.6% in 1979 to 9.62% in 1981. Malaysia faced economic difficulties amidst global recessions, resulting in inflation rates below 1% from 1985 to 1987. Moreover, the Gulf War in 1990 caused inflation to rise again, peaking around 4.75% by 1992. During the 1997 ASEAN financial crisis, Malaysia navigated deflationary pressures but rebounded with renewed inflationary trends post-crisis. However, in the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2008, Malaysia managed inflation relatively well due to the robust financial sector measures and government interventions. Recent years have seen Malaysia grappling with fluctuating global oil price, governmental policy shifts, and also the external economic influences, with the central bank adjusting policies to stabilize inflation. Throughout these periods, Malaysia's inflationary landscape has been closely linked to the global economic conditions, domestic policies, and also its dependence on key exports like oil. Economic diversification efforts and crisis management strategy have played a crucial role in shaping Malaysia inflation trajectory over time. That's all for me, and next I will pass to my friends. Thank you.
Now, I want to explain about causes of inflation in Malaysia. Number one is demand pull inflation, second is cost push inflation, and third is expectation. For demand pull inflation is refer to economic growth. Rapid economic growth can lead to increased consumer spending, boosting demand for goods and services. If the supply cannot keep up with the increased demand, price will rise. Second is cost push inflation. Cost push inflation is rising in production cost. Increase in the cost of raw material, labor, and other input can lead businesses to raise price to maintain their profit margins. Third is expectation. Inflation expectation. If businesses and consumers expect price to rise in the future, they may increase price and wages preemptively, contribution to inflation. Now, I want to discuss and explain about impact of inflation in Malaysia. Impact of inflation can divided into three elements. Number one is economy impacts, second is social impacts, last but not least is policy impacts. For economy impacts, refer to cost of living, increased expenses, higher price for essential such as foods, transportation and housing can increase the overall cost of living, putting pressure on household budgets. For social impacts is referred to income inequality, which is disproportionate impact on low-cost household. Inflation often disproportionately affect low-income household as they spend a larger share of their income on essential things. Next, for policy impacts. For policy impacts is referred to subsidies and price control by government. Government intervention. In the response to inflation situation, the government may implement subsidies or price control to stabilize price for essential goods.
Today I want to present about final thought on managing inflation. Managing inflation is a complex task that requires a combination of monetary, fiscal and structural policies. Here are some key points to consider. Monetary policy. Interest rate. Central bank often adjust interest rate to control inflation. Rising interest rate can reduce spending and borrowing, slowing down the economy and reducing inflationary pressure. Fiscal policy. Government spending. Reducing government spending can help cool down an overheating economy, thereby reducing inflation. Structural policies. Supply side reform. Improving productivity and efficiency in the economy can help manage inflation in the long term. This includes investing in infrastructure, education and technology. And the last one is final thought. Balance. Managing inflation requires a delicate balance. Policy must be careful, calibrate to avoid stifling economic growth while keeping inflation in check. Effective inflation management is crucial for economic stability and growth, and it requires a coordinated approach involving multiple policy levels and careful monitoring of economic conditions.